is our first attempt at making a video on how to make the sweet rolls that Will always has made. So first thing we do is some water, like I usually do about this much.
How many cups is that?
That's a quart.
Okay.
So 4 cups.
4 cups of boiling water that was boiled in the microwave.
Yeah. Put it in a 9x13. I put my racks on the lowest shelf and put this on the lowest shelf in there. I also turn the light on in the oven so that just it's a little extra thing that adds to the heat. And then I place the racks so the rack's immediately above where the water is. And then I have plenty of height for a large bowl and for the bread to rise. And then my next step is I need lukewarm water. And the ingredients is for a 1/2 cup, but since we're doubling the recipe, it's gonna be a cup. And so sometimes I do this just with the temperature from the sink, and that feels pretty much lukewarm. You don't want it to be hot because it'll destroy the properties in the yeast. And then the recipe calls for 2 packages of active dry yeast. I like to use the Rapid Rise. Just anything that's going to help your bread rise more quickly.
Okay.
And
can you move that milk just a little bit?
And so sometimes I'll get the yeast that's in the jar, but just because you get a little bit more for your money. But
how many of those are you using?
I'm going to use 4 of these because
you're
we're
doubling
the recipe.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. So here's 3. Now I've already made sure this whole counter is clean because I will need the bread on the counter.
And you store that yeast, the packages of yeast, in the refrigerator, correct?
Yes, yes.
And you stir it up. How thoroughly?
You want to keep stirring until most of this yeast has kind of, I guess it melts a little bit, and so it's not too clunky. Now, I'm not going to worry about having every single granule dissolved. I just want most of it dissolved, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I add milk, because you add 1.5 cups of milk to this, and I'm going to be adding 3 cups since I'm doubling the recipe. And I'm going to put this in the microwave to try to get this to a lukewarm temperature also. And so that will also help assist with dissolving the yeast.
Okay. So lukewarm milk is added, will be added.
And I'll put this in a bigger bowl.
Go.
I like to put it on defrost for just a couple of minutes, so as to not get it too hot. So, stirring this. So when it's mostly dissolved, it's gonna look like this. See, there's a few little pieces in there, but not much. And then I'm gonna transfer this to a much bigger bowl. And now I really just, when I think of lukewarm, I think of taking the chill off of something. So I've already put that in the microwave just for a couple minutes on defrost. So it is lukewarm. I'm pouring that in there. And now this is where I add, it calls for a half a cup of sugar, but I'm gonna do 1 cup because I'm doubling the recipe. And 2 teaspoons of salt. But again, I'm gonna do 4. Two, 3. And then I'm gonna add whisk. Before I add my eggs, I want to whisk this a little bit to get the sugar at least starting to dissolve along with the salt. Okay. And now we're going to add 4 eggs. Again, the recipe calls for 2, but since we're doubling it, we'll be doing 4. Break up those yolks. And now the recipe calls for a half a cup of shortening, and I'll be adding a whole cup. So sometimes when I'm doing this, I like to just use a different measuring thing because I'm going to be using my 1 cup to do the flour, and you know, I don't want to have all this sticky shortening in there. So I'm going to do 2 half-cuppers. start adding the flour. So it calls for adding 7 to 7.5 cups of sifted flour. I don't usually sift mine. I usually fluff it with a whisk. As I'm kind of adding it. And in the recipe it says to add half of that flour and stir. So since I'm doubling it, I'm going to be adding 7 cups. And then I'm going to keep stirring and keep stirring. And then I will more gradually add the second set of cups. So we're just gonna fluff this that's on the top. At least this is what my facts teacher at our middle school said. That you can just fluff it and you don't have to sift it. This is where I have to count and try not to lose my count. Sometimes I will measure this all out the night before, and I'll have it broken up into 2 7 bags of flour. Not 7 bags, 7 cups of flour.
2 bags, 7 cups in each bag, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
2 bags, 7 cups in each bag, just so I don't have to worry about counting so much.
You'll put all 7 in there before you start mixing it?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part. I mean, I'll maybe put 4 in there and start mixing, and then put the other ones. What number am I on?
This is number 3, what you're putting in there.
That's what I thought. 3. So I'm going to stop at 4 and start stirring. See what it looks like when everything's kind of swimming around. It's going to be quite a while before all those chunks of Crisco get all blended in there. So, 4, 5. 6 and 7, and then I just try to get that as mixed up as I can. I think a KitchenAid mixer would help with this. I just recently got a used one, and I just haven't tried using it yet, so I want to experiment first when it's not a holiday. Because I'm always concerned about over mixing and all that kind of things, because it makes your bread tougher, I believe. Okay, so now this is going to be starting a next 7.
So that's
1.
Yep, it's 8.
Okay, you want to count that way, 8?
Well, doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fine. 9, 10. Again, it is helpful because when you're making this in the morning, sometimes my brain is just tired. So it is helpful to have it measured out the night before. Just one less thinking thing. Okay, so at this point, it gets a lot more difficult, to keep stirring. So I'm pretty soon I'm going to be getting my hands in here. And I try to do the really sticky part sometimes in here, but then sometimes I just put it out on the counter and just flour the counter really well. Either way.
Yes. So flouring the counter helps it to not stick to the counter?
Yeah. So I think we're at 12 cups of flour. Right?
Yes.
And so it kind of looks like this in here. So I'm just gonna try to get some of that. This is where it gets a little bit messy. Now, this is where I'm going to have Paul wash this while I'm kneading this. And then he's going to grease the inside of this bowl because this is where the flour is going to rise. And so you want to have your bowl washed and then greased.
Okay, so we'll pick back up after.
Well, unless you want to watch me.
How's our time?
Kneading it.
Yeah, I probably should get video of you kneading it. It takes a decent amount. I've done this before. It takes a decent amount of kind of muscles, and you want to get it all mixed in there real good.
And then once you, I try to, because I'm doubling it, I try not to keep it in one tight ball. I try to let it be a little bit longer. So therefore, I feel like it gives me more service to blend the flour into. And so I don't get like secret areas that get not, you know, like something like this that gets buried down in there that isn't blended. But that's just me. There's probably better ways. Okay. I think we might have to pause this for a minute because I need you to open me another bag of flour.
Well, while we were paused, what I did is I washed this, and as you can see, I greased it with Crisco. But what I did to keep my hands from getting too messy is I put some Crisco in there, and then I used a napkin to kind of spread it out all over the place so my hands are not greasy. And Lisa added 2 more cups to the to the big old mound of
Where's
dough.
the Crisco?
Crisco?
Yeah.
It's over on that counter over there. And do you also?
So then I take some Crisco. So once the dough gets about like this, that's when I stop kneading it. And I've added, and then I put this on my hands. And I'm gonna, I want to grease the outside of this dough ball.
And the combination of that being greased as well as the bowl, it allows as the dough expands, it gives it a little bit of ability to like move, right? as it expands.
Yes. I believe that's the
rationale.
Yeah, allows it to not
Stick.
get dried out on the edges too.
Okay.
A little bit, but I do other things to help. Or there's other things you're supposed to do. There's nothing different.
Oh, and there's Audrey.
I take a tea towel.
Audrey, what are your feelings about the rolls that Mom makes?
They're the best.
Yeah, there we go.
So I get a tea towel like this. You've seen them when I bring the bread on our holidays. So it's a nice and thin weight. You get it wet all the way.
Lukewarm water?
I use sometimes hot, warm. It doesn't really matter. But again, you're trying to keep things warm, so probably warm is best. So I wring it. And then drape it. And then put it in the oven.
But there's no heat turned on
No
the
heat
oven.
turned on. I just use the oven as a nice hot sauna because I added that water.
That boiling water earlier,
Yep.
right?
And now it's nice and heated up. And now I'm gonna set my timer for an hour and a half. And then we're gonna, at an hour and a half, we're gonna punch it down. But we try to do that gently.
Okay. So we will pause here and we'll be back in an hour and a half to show you the punching down process. So the timer went off, right?
Yes. So after the first rise, you want to basically kind of pop it. And so I already did it because you can see my finger marks, but I just take my hands like this and I gently insert them to about maybe here.
Do it a couple times just to show.
So I do it like this. I don't want to punch it again though. And then I do it like this. Just enough.
Just twice?
And you'll see it deflate. It was like this before I did it. And then it deflates. You don't want to over punch it. And then I just put this back on and then we put it back in for 30 more minutes.
30 more minutes.
If you want, you could change the water and reheat it, but I don't always do that. And set it for 30 more minutes and it will rise again. And then you're ready to put it in the pan.
When it rises again, after it rises again, do you punch it down again or not?
Nope.
Wonderful.
No.
All right, thanks.
Hello, I am Trisha. I'm Paul's sister, and I am preparing the pans for rolls. And what you do is you lightly grease them with Crisco and cover all the pan completely, the inside of the muffin tins.
Right.
And then you put flour inside and make sure that everything is lined with flour. And once everything is lined with flour, make sure that you shake all the excess flour out of the pan. And then you have them prepared for the the rolls.
For the rolls, great. So that's how the pan gets prepared. It's important to follow all of those steps. Sometimes people forget to grease them, and that kind of makes a difference. Lisa?
So you grab a pinch. I'm not trying to smash it all down. I want to keep as much fluff in there as possible.
So you just very lightly, you don't squish it down.
I don't even try to make it all that round. Just creating just a little bit of shape and enough to fit it in there.
And we usually do, 3 pieces.
Yeah.
3 round balls in each muffin tin.
And I'm just copying what Lisa's doing.
Right, and so we've got something similar here, even though these muffin tins are slightly smaller. So therefore the balls that she's rolling are a little bit smaller for these. So that is the next step.
Right before we bake them,
Say that again, because
Right before we bake them, we put a little dollop of butter on top. Just cut a little sliver of butter.
can you show that right now, since you're talking about it? Can you reach over and show about how much?
Yeah.
So just about that much butter
And then cut it.
goes on top of each one, and that is an important step before baking as well.
And once the muffins are prepared, I mean the rolls are prepared, what we do is we put them in at 400 degrees for 12 to 14 minutes.
And what we do also is we transfer them top to bottom and left to right for more evenness of cooking. But once but we want to check on them, so we're not legalistic about that time frame, because as you'll see, we want to make sure that they're completely done and that the edges of the rolls that are in the muffin pan are browned.
That's through the cooking process.
So this is what they look like after 7 minutes.
And we're rotating top and bottom and side to side also.
Correct.
Okay. And let's take this one. It's gonna go over here. This one's gonna go there. And this one's gonna go.
So be just a
That's
matter of
close
the
enough.
rules are done.
Oh wait. Yeah.
It's good enough.
Okay. There we go.
I don't know if that's a necessary step, but it's something we always do.
We do rotate top to bottom for sure.
Half.
Okay, so it's been 14 minutes, and we're gonna check, and we're gonna make sure that they are in fact ready. And Sharon's gonna illustrate how to do that, because we wanna kind of pull them out, and we wanna see if the edges are brown. So we got, hold on, let me
See if you can
do this
figure
here.
out the
Okay,
rules.
so I would say these are done. Yes, those are absolutely finished. See how you got the brown on the side and you got a little bit of brown on the top. That's how you know that they're done. And a little tip for everybody, we're gonna put these in a big bowl. I think those are finished as well, probably, don't you think? Let's check them a little bit. Oh, that's probably a bad idea. Okay, there we go, yeah. Little tip that I wanna give everybody, that was right at 14 minutes. One of the reasons I like to cook them is I always eat the first one. So I'm gonna take this one right here, I'm gonna put it on a plate, and I'm gonna douse it in butter, because these are best doused in butter. The butter should be salted butter, and it should be real butter, not fake margarine, because that sucks. That one's mine right there. So I just like to make it clear for everyone how much butter should be on a roll. This is Paul Masek's opinion. This is not in the recipe, but big old pat. It's best to do them, to do it fresh out of the oven. But also there is a way, actually one of the best ways for leftover rolls is we freeze them immediately, as well after they've cooled off, right? And we freeze them, and they can reheat really well in a microwave for about a minute. And I think they taste just as good as fresh. So often we'll make a decent sized batch and then freeze them for future use. Enjoy.